only 11th on the grid. Will Martin, who has had 10 career wins in Carrera Cup, is on pole position. Sid Smith stepped up to the pro category this year. Seb Hopkins comes to Carrera Cup from the Sprint Challenge for the Caymans. He starts third ahead of Andrew Rackstraw, the South African, a race winner last season. Will Jenkins is another graduate from Sprint Challenge. He starts fifth, and a really impressive sixth, Oliver White. Starting seventh is James Wallace in his second season as the Porsche GB Junior. Henry Dawes comes next ahead of Josh Stanton and Angus Whiteside. Then row six, George Gamble and fellow former touring car racer Ollie Jackson ahead of newcomers Jonathan Beeson and Carl Cavers. Aaron Mason, late addition to the ranks, is on the 8th row with William Paul. And Max Coates, new to the championship, is going to have to start at the back with a 10-second delay, excluded from qualifying for a technical infringement for having the wrong tyre pressure. We will have the lights to go red. Engine notes will rise when the lights go out. Porsche Carrera Cup Great Britain 2025 will be go now. Blast off. Good getaway by the poleman Will Martin. Really good start also by Will Jenkins, who gets up through the pack. Sid Smith in the green and white car goes to the inside line to try to defend second place, but then leaves the door open on the outside. He's under attack then from Hopkins and others, and there's drama and a big lose in the middle of the pack. Lots of tar smoke. Jenkins it is who's gone around. He did get collected. Others scattering avoidance. Cold tyres, new car. That's not going to end well either, as sliding back onto the road is Jonathan Beeson. Thankfully, nobody collects him, but a really dramatic start.
And that was really unfortunate for Will Jenkins. He actually got a fantastic launch off the line, contrary to my expectations about stepping up from the automatic gearboxes of Sprint Challenge. He got an absolutely terrific launch, but then got tagged at Redgate and spun round. I'm not sure who it was. Might actually have been Seb Hopkins.
So the rest of the pack come up through Coppice for the first time. Everybody, I think, has kept going despite damage. That's Henry Dawes. He qualified really well, 8th on the grid, and I'm afraid to say his race is really run with all that damage around the left front corner. Leaders then come out of the chicane for the first time. It is a 24-lap race, or 30 minutes, depending on which comes first. And right now, Will Martin leading Sid Smith, getting away from the pack. Andrew Rackstraw is third. Angus Whiteside, 10th on the grid, 4th.
James Wallace got into the back of the car in front. Not sure who that was. It might have been Ollie White. Yeah, I think he got into the back of Ollie White on the straight. Here's the start from James Wallace's car, and you see the start of Will Jenkins. He gets a terrific launch round the outside of Seb Hopkins. Now watch as he come into the first corner. Who's the contact with? That's Sid Smith in front. Yeah, I think it was just Seb Hopkins on the right hand side got into the back of Will Jenkins. Really unfortunate.
Wallace did well to avoid all of that. He just went into the tar smoke, came out the other side, and the road was clear. So James Wallace, like others, benefiting from the dramas, others not so fortunate.
Here's another one. You see Will Jenkins jumps to the middle, goes round the outside. Sid Smith defending on the inside. Will Martin's away, but as Will Jenkins turns in, he just clips the front, doesn't he? And look at the smoke screen that everyone had to drive through. It didn't know where the car was, did they?
So let's try and see where the damage comes for Henry Dawes. Safety car's been deployed, by the way. Henry Dawes just clipped the back, didn't he? So that's where his damage came from. He'd made a bad start, actually, because bearing in mind that he was 8th on the grid, he was a long way back in the pack to be where he was for that contact. This is the Wallace drama that you were talking about. As I say, safety car is now on track. Let's just cover this drama off down to the chicane. This is Wallace.
So that's Ollie White in front. I think it was actually on a different lap, or maybe it was coming out of here on the run to Redgate. He gets an excellent run out of the chicane. He's not sure which way to go. Initially, it goes to dive to the inside and then changes his mind and goes to go back and clips the back of Ollie White's car. Be lucky if he hasn't damaged his radiator.
The green flag is ready. Here they come up towards the timing line. Will Martin accelerates away to get round one of Carrera Cup GB back underway. Down towards Redgate Corner he goes with Sid Smith second. The South African driver Andrew Rackstraw is third. Angus Whiteside fourth then as they head to the top of the crane and curves once again. And Will Martin using all of his Porsche experience to good effect. But Sid Smith really encouragingly is going after him.
Yeah, a lot of debris on the track. There was splitters and bits being thrown up on the start-finish line, and there was some other bits of fiberglass there being thrown up as well. So a few bits of damage around the circuit. Hopefully no one will get a puncture.
So we are on lap 9 out of 24, or we have 17 minutes to go, depending on which is achieved first. The lead battle pack comes up towards Coppice. This is James Wallace's view. He's on the back of Seb Hopkins then. Now up towards Coppice, turn right.
Down briefly to third. He'll short shift during the corner to fourth. There you see it on the dashboard. Then fifth, just as they come over that crest before coming all the way down. It's third gear, this chicane, actually. It's very fast, the chicane. It's quite a quick chicane. Maybe second gear just on the way in and an early snatch to third, but on a good run through, it's easily done in third gear.
So Will Martin leads by half a second. You can see all that debris on the start line that Tim was talking about, possibly off the back of Oliver White's car or the front of James Wallace's after their contact. Round Redgate they go. Rackstraw third, just dropping away a little bit, and now people run over that debris again as they go past the pits. Leaders come out of Redgate, through Hollywood, down the Craner curves. Battle on here. 44 is Jonathan Beeson, involved in a big battle. Max Coates, incidentally, up to 13th now for his delayed start, and Will Jenkins 14th after his spin.
Yeah, so they're the two that are charging through the field. There is Jenkins, made some progress. Yeah, I fancy that might be, the debris might be the front splitter off James Wallace's car, because he ran into the back of Ollie White. So I think it's probably his front splitter.
Leaders in the meantime then work lap number 10 here, as up the inside of William Paul goes Jonathan Beeson. This is for second in the AM class at the moment, because the AM's being led by Carl Cavers. Max Coates there up the inside to go through, looking to try to gain a place away from Aaron Mason, and he does go by. Aaron is going to be doing Super Cup this year, but where possible, might do the odd Carrera Cup GB race. So Max Coates, the man who lives a stone's throw away from Croft, gains a place. Leaders into Redgate here.
Around the outside, James Wallace trying to make a move on Seb Hopkins. They're going to be side by side down the Craner curves, but I think that James Wallace has got the inside for the left-hander, and he will brave it out there and takes the position. Good right move. Behind, we've got reigning champion George Gamble trying to capitalise on this move as well. So Hopkins is going backwards a little bit.
He is, and this was James Wallace's move then. He tees it up into Redgate here.
Yeah, not easy to do round the outside. And Hopkins did well give him some room, didn't he, on the outside, which is a requirement now anyway in regulations. But brave and good move by James Wallace. Gamble hasn't got through yet, but he will have seen that move and will probably try and repay the same, do the same move himself.
So Will Martin still leads the way. Sid Smith is in touch. He's not challenging. He's not close enough to do that, but he's not dropped too far back. Will Martin, of course, as the race leader, has done the fastest lap of the race, although we've had relatively few racing laps given that safety car period. He's now leading by 0.6 of a second. Rackstraw third, in fourth place Angus Whiteside, then a gap back to James Wallace then ahead of Hopkins and Gamble. So 11th George started, 7th he runs, bit of a wobble at Redgate from James Wallace onto the top of the Craners now.
A wobble is a technical term for oversteer, is it? As he corrected the slide coming out of Redgate. Back under control now through the old hairpin. Exit there is a place you have to watch for track limits, up through Starkeys and try and straight line the braking area into McLean's. Quite an early turn in there, and just use the curb on the inside to hook the car around. Yeah, this battle goes on, doesn't it? And change of position there. As William Paul loses a place to Beeson.
Yeah, William Paul coming back into the championship. Jonathan Beeson moving up from Sprint Challenge last season. Now, how is Will Jenkins getting on in his efforts to gain back places? There he is, coming into the chicane, so he's chasing after Max Coates. He is in 13th place. His best lap so far has been a 66.5. So he's a little way adrift of the pace of the front runners, and that does suggest there is some damage, doesn't it?
Yeah, he's some half a second off. And bearing in mind he's got clear air in front of him, that suggests there is definitely damage to the rear of that car that's costing him performance anyway, even if we can't see it.
Sure. So it becomes damage limitation for points within Pro-Am, as down to the old hairpin there goes Aaron Mason. Now, race leader starting to edge away Will Martin, but Andrew Rackstraw third in the white car there is getting closer to Sid Smith. At the start of this lap it was down to 0.4 of a second, but Rackstraw then, second season in these cars, and of course he's learnt more about British circuits, the South African driver new to the country last year. He is now closing on Sid Smith and looking a bit more menacing for second place.
Yeah, Andrew Rackstraw had some real turn of speed on occasions last year. Multiple winner, of course, in Formula Ford, but now in his second year with Carrera Cup, so very much got the feel of these cars. Nothing's changed technically on these cars from last year, so he's in the same boat. He knows these cars. Here comes Max Coates on Carl Cavers. Flashes the lights, but Carl doesn't move over. Quite right too, he has no need to at all. Max Coates is going to have to find his way around the outside, or perhaps even into the old hairpin if he's very quick through the crane of curves. He's teeing it up, but he's not there in time. So he now needs a good exit for an old hairpin to get a run up the hill. But Carl Cavers driving very nicely.
Max Coates, runner-up in the Sprint Challenge last season, graduates to Carrera Cup this season. Carl Cavers likewise moving into the championship this year. They're in different classes. Carl Cavers still leads AM. Max Coates is in Pro AM, but he's determined to find a way through. And this, in terms of overall placing, is for 11th. Max Coates gets up the inside at Coppice and should get the job done at the end of Starkey Straight. Yeah,
he teed that up from a few corners before to make sure he got a great cut back and run through Coppice, and he executed that perfectly, as we'd expect from Max Coates. Very accomplished driver.
Race leaders go by. The gap second to third is still around the 4/10 of the second mark as James Wallace heads down through the crane of curves, 5th. Seb Hopkins behind him in 6th spot. And to the old hairpin they come. Behind the pair of them, it is George Gamble. Now, Gamble's dropped back a little bit, hasn't he?
Yeah, I'm confused by George's pace. I haven't had a chance to catch up with him personally, but I'm confused by his pace this weekend. He hasn't quite looked the same fiery, fast guy that he was last year. Maybe some technical reasons for that, but he's not making the progress on Seb Hopkins and James Wallace that we perhaps would have expected.
Indeed, and that track limits warning flag is for Sid Smith in second place, 1 second back, and maybe the reason he's now pushing even harder is because he's being caught by Andrew Rackstraw. But Sid Smith there is going to have to be careful because he's had the warning. If he carries on running too wide, then he's in danger of copping a penalty. Down towards Redgate Corner they come.
Yeah. And if Andrew Rackstraw does really get on the back of Sid Smith, it's actually going to help, possibly help Sid Smith if Angus Whiteside gets on the back as well and starts challenging. And we know Angus is a really aggressive racer who takes any opportunity he can to, if there's a gap, he'll go for it.
So we've got just under 10 minutes of the race to go, and we're on lap 16 out of 24, so it might still fit perfectly in terms of laps. 9 to go as Will Martin continues to hold sway, and now he has got enough in hand, hasn't he? He can just control this. He's done the fastest lap of the race now, 65.7, as he tries to build that gap. Out of Coppice, second it's still Sid Smith. Andrew Rackstraw not quite being able to stay with him, and if anything, fourth Angus Whiteside coming back at those ahead. This is George Gamble in replay, number 1 with a big lock up at McLean's.
Yeah, he just got the car unweighted there over the curb, didn't get it squarely set on the brakes. On board with James Wallace, down to third, as I said, for the chicane. Even late in the race when the tyre grip is not as good, sometimes the driver's forced to go down to second initially, but he carries through third, fourth, fifth on the start-finish race. He'll brake just at the pit exit there. Down to fourth and third for Redgate. Catch that curb, get on the power nice and early. Now you're absolutely flat through Hollywood, pulling the gears, then a slight lift or a dab on the brakes with your left foot to turn the car into the craners. Then it's a heavier brake, but you need to be off the brake to release the car and get good speed out of the corner for the uphill section that leads up towards McLean, sorry. Brake in a straight line at McLean's, and a nice little half lap on board there with James Wallace. He was driving well.
George Gamble, by the way, the reigning champion. We talked about him struggling, and he's now got a driving standards flag hovering over him. So it's a good job we're running out of laps, in a sense. Gives him less opportunity to transgress. James Wallace then comes out of Coppice, down towards the chicane once more. And as he does so, it looks as though fifth is going to be where he finishes. No, Andrew Rackstraw. No sooner have I said it, Rackstraw gets a 5-second penalty for continued track limit offences. So you apply the penalty and he will drop behind Wallace, behind Hopkins as well. So there, Andrew Rackstraw running third on the road, but on corrected times, he's down to 6th.
Yeah, and that gives Angus Whiteside the final podium position. Here's Will Jenkins locking up as he tries to get through Carl Cavers. just on the approach there to Coppice, but he does get through.
So, big frustration for Andrew Rackstraw as Will Martin is coming through McLean's corner now, and 1 second he is to the good. So this certainly serves intent, doesn't it? It's been a commanding drive, this, and nobody being able to stay on his tail. No, he's controlled the race very well. Not easy to do. The slightest mistake, as we saw, could drop you position, but more importantly, it spoils your rhythm, and you then one mistake leads to another. But he's kept himself absolutely fully focused and driven extremely well to control this race. Still 4 laps to go. But he's doing 3 laps to go at the end of this, but doing extremely well. But yeah, Whiteside will now be on the podium. And Oliver White is still leading in Pro-Am, where second is the battle. Josh Stanton's purple car, new colour scheme this year. Ollie Jackson behind him, new colour scheme this year. Down they come. Remember, Josh Stanton was a rather dominant Am champ a few seasons back. He goes now through Redgate. The bright yellow car is Ollie Jackson, third in Pro-Am at the moment. And while they start to get themselves together, class leader is escaping up the road, namely Oliver White. Behind these two, it is Max Coates there, fourth in class, up from that 10-second delayed start. But maybe, given the bunching after the safety car, you possibly could have anticipated a few more places to be gained, and he's not quite got onto the tail of that top 3 yet. No,
and I don't think he's going to have enough time left in this race to catch them, but he still gets good points for fourth in class. Good recovery drive, and that will set him up, obviously, for race 2. Potentially to go one better. But yes, excellent drive in Pro-Am by Ollie White, and he enjoys that just over 1 second gap at the head of that class over Josh Stanton and Ollie Jackson.
He was fourth in the Pro-Am Championship, Ollie White, last year. Now the lead gap has come down a fraction, 0.7 of a second as they head now into Redgate corner, and Sid Smith having one last push, but he's only got 2 laps to go, so he's running out of options, running out of time, as now they drop down the hill once again.
But I can tell you, as a race leader, this is the time when you get panicky. You just get that little bit panicky. You're not in a comfortable place where you can start thinking about your victory speech. You know that one little mistake and he'll be right on your bumper, but you don't want to give him that sniff of opportunity to incentivize him. So just got to really keep your focus and drive your lines, nail your apexes. But he'd like to start the last lap with a little bit more than 3/4 of a second. I think it's going to be more like half a second as he starts the final lap just after the chicane.
So down they come into the braking zone for the chicane. Last roll of the dice then for Sid Smith coming up as the cars now sprint their way up towards the timing line once again. Remember, third on the road is the penalised Andrew Rackstraw. They go by and the lead gap creeps up to 9/10 of a second. Will Martin good at coming out of the chicane.
Yeah, responded well on that penultimate lap just to give himself enough of a buffer. 1 second is what you really want, and he's just about got that.
George Gamble, reigning champion, 5-second penalty for track limit offences. It goes from bad to worse, doesn't it, for the local driver based in Nottingham, so it's his home circuit, and it's not been a good start to the campaign for George Gamble. And in this series, hemorrhaging points, it's so costly.
It is costly, but as we know, things can change very quickly from one meeting to the next. Next meeting will be at Brands Hatch, but let's not take anything away from Will Martin. Off from pole position, a great start, and has led and controlled this race both prior to and obviously after the restart.
Will Martin then is on target for honours in this opening Carrera Cup GP race of the season. It will be an 11th of his career in the championship. Round 1 at Donington. He's won by Will Martin in style. Second, Sid Smith. Third over the line, Andrew Rackstraw, but Angus Whiteside takes the place on corrected times. James Wallace inherits 4th, Rackstraw 5th. Seb Hopkins falls behind him then. 6th, Ollie White 7th to score honours in Pro-Am ahead of Josh Stanton. Then Ollie Jackson. George Gamble is 10th when his penalty is applied.